Okay, we should be live. Gonna give it just a minute so that I can confirm we are in fact live. So I'm gonna keep an eye on YouTube really quick, but for those of you who are tuning in, because I believe we are live, welcome into this stream. I hope you're all doing well. This is our first live stream of 2025. It has been way too long, but it is good to be back. Unfortunately, I can't be live for too long tonight, but I figured that it's very important that we come on and give an update for this extreme winter storm on its way to much of the United States. I wouldn't even just say the southern U.S. That is a large portion of the United States. You can see we have winter storm warnings stretching all the way from west central New Mexico all the way through eastern Kentucky. All of that pink area is a winter storm warning that goes as far south along I-35 in Texas, all the way up north into portions of northern Kansas, northern Missouri. So this is going to be a very high impact storm over a very large area. Hello Pete, I hope you're doing well. Welcome in to the live stream. We're going to wait for just a couple more people to get in here and then we will get right into it. We can actually start to look at a couple of models. I have the HRRR0Z pulled up because I was looking at where we're going to see our first snow, and I've seen many other people talking about this as well. It looks like the start of this event is going to be some rain and mix in south central New Mexico, and then I'll turn to ice and freezing rain accumulation across portions of north central Texas along the Red River, and then right around Oklahoma City is where the HRRR currently has that freezing rain snow line right in the Oklahoma City area. And then that's our first round. That'll move through Friday. So this is Friday into Saturday, and then that's as far as this reaches out. And we're expecting a second band. That's going to be the higher impact band that will stretch further south and further north. That's going to bring most of our snow, most of our freezing rain, and most of our potentially catastrophic impacts. Now, I don't have the most confidence with this winter storm, if I'm being 100% honest with you all, just because some of the model runs look ridiculous. It almost looks fake, even though they've been so consistent. We'll actually pull up the GFS for snow totals. Let's see. We'll do the 10-to-1 ratio. Yeah, you can see once this storm is said and done, it has portions of like north central Texas, 22 inches there. Okay, we've got some chat messages coming in, so I'm going to take a pause and look at those. Pete, once again, welcome in. We have Evan. Do you think it would be safe for me to travel to Birmingham, or I'm assuming you mean from Birmingham to Huntsville Sunday? Let's take a look. Well, the GFS, we'll look at a couple runs. It doesn't really show the Birmingham area. That run is an exception. It doesn't really show Birmingham picking up on much snow. Looks like it'll be a bit too warm down there. Maybe northern Alabama on an inch or two, depending on how cold it gets, where we see that freezing point, but definitely some freezing rain. You guys will get in on precipitation, but I would say it depends on the time of day. So do you know when on Sunday? Because if the sun comes out Sunday and you're going in the afternoon, maybe the roads would be less slick, but what I'm assuming is going to happen is a lot of that area will see freezing rain, or just plain rain, and that's going to freeze overnight Saturday night into Sunday, and that's going to cause a lot of those slick roads, especially in northern Alabama. The Birmingham area I would not be worried about, but you may see some slick roads near Huntsville. What's up, Mr. Storm? Welcome in. About 7 p.m. Okay, so I would say I wouldn't be too concerned going from Birmingham to Huntsville Sunday night. Just watch out for slick roads. Always make sure you're going slow, taking your time to get there. Probably you'll want to take the main routes because those roads will be the cleanest, the safest. Just be sure to have some extra patience that night because you guys may run into some traffic. I don't want to take a deep dive into these models too much just because I personally have a lot of uncertainty with this storm, but I'm happy to answer any questions that any of you guys have. These snow totals, it's really all going to depend on how cold it gets in some of these areas, because some of these projected totals are absolutely absurd. 17 inches in west central Louisiana. This latest run only has it picking up on 7, which I think is far more realistic in my opinion. But still, this is just insane to see. This is, if this plays out, which it probably will, this is something that we have not seen in years for these areas. So we'll go back to the south central U.S. because this zone, this whole zone, is my target area. A lot of people have that as their target area. One spot in particular, a couple areas that I think will pick up on the most ice accumulation that I'm particularly worried about are West Tennessee. So we'll get precip type pulled up. You can see right around here, latest GFS has that freezing rain and snow line right around the Nashville and Memphis areas. That line will actually be north of Memphis, so this is picking up on mainly freezing rain for Memphis. But what I am particularly worried about, this is our Friday into Saturday, by the way, so this is early morning hours of Saturday. Our Sunday event is going to bring more of that snow to those areas, but whether it will stick or not is the question, because it is going to be very dry. So that is what I'm keeping an eye on. But what I was going to say about that freezing rain is that western North Carolina, you could see how long they're going to have that mix, and that is going to lead to potentially the very high end amount, very high end, so probably a less than 10% chance of this happening, but they could see an inch of ice. An inch of snow would not sound like much, but an inch of ice can do catastrophic damage to infrastructure that could be no power for potentially weeks, even longer than that, considering what we know about what Helene did to their infrastructure back there in western North Carolina. We'll actually pull up, I want to get the GFS, not the GFS, the ARRR for the 0Z. This will give us a better idea of what we're looking at for that mix. Unfortunately, it doesn't go quite far out enough to show us when that does reach western North Carolina, but you can see that it is lining up with the GFS 0Z, so from the same time as this run, where that freezing rain and snow line is. So that's right about halfway up between the Mississippi-Tennessee border and the Kentucky-Tennessee border. So in conclusion, you guys in West Tennessee, much of Tennessee, if you are in the southern 2/3 roughly of Tennessee, Friday into Saturday, you guys will mainly just see some freezing rain, and that'll still cause the roads to be slick. It'll have similar impacts to a couple inches of snow. So that's something I do want to touch more on, is impact. Even if you're not seeing snow, because a lot of people think if they don't see snow, there's not going to be an impact. A big part of this is going to be the ice in Texas. We're actually going to take a look at some of the winter storm warnings. I did not mean to close that, but some of the winter storm warnings that we have in areas like Texas, for example, which are warning for mainly ice. You can see this is a mix of freezing rain and sleet across North Texas. So that is what these winter storm warnings are for, not necessarily snow in Texas. If we look at this winter storm warning, you can see it says winter storm warning in effect from 6 p.m. Friday to noon Central Standard Time Sunday. Heavy mixed precipitation expected. Ice accumulations between 1/4 of an inch and 1/2 of an inch. So up to 1/2 of an inch is possible on that higher end amount, which can once again do significant damage. That'll make those roads like ice rinks. That could take down tree branches, power lines, and that's another thing with this storm. You should be prepared to lose power, so make sure you have food, water, all of those things that you'll need if you cannot leave your home for a couple days, medications, whatever you need. And for areas of North Texas, mainly along the Red River, so north of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, this says sleet and snow accumulations between 1 to 3 inches with amounts near 5 inches. Up towards the Red River are possible. But in North Texas, like Dallas, Fort Worth, and South, you guys are going to be mainly looking at mixed precip, which will still have just as big of an impact as 3 to 5 inches of snow. So the strong winds and weight of snow on tree limbs may down power lines. It could cause significant, or not significant, sporadic power outages. Significant ice accumulation on power lines and tree limbs may cause widespread and long-lasting power outages, which is what I was talking about just a bit ago. Expect power outages and tree damage due to the ice. Travel could be impossible just because of how slick those roads will be. So this says to have an emergency kit ready in case of power outage. Check on vulnerable friends and family. So delay all travel. If you don't need to, well, I wouldn't recommend it. So unless it's absolutely necessary, just avoid travel in these areas. I would assume most, if not all, schools in a big portion of North Texas have been canceled because they are not used to events like this. So I figure that they would cancel. Hang on, everyone. Give me just a second here. Actually, might pull up the Weatherfront app and we'll take a look at some models on there. If you have not downloaded it, I recommend it. Radar Omega is always my go-to, but for models, if you don't have the highest tier subscription, Weatherfront is great too. So let's see. Give me just a minute to pull this up. We'll start off with HRRR 0Z. Okay, this gives us a much more detailed view than what we are looking at on the computer. Give me just a second, everyone. I need to make it so that this can pop up. Okay. Hang on. For some reason, it's not wanting to connect. Okay. Now we should be good. Okay, so now you can all see this screen from my phone. I do apologize for the lower quality, or not lower quality, but the orientation. You could see, though, we are looking at the HRRR 0Z, which is a run from about 4 hours ago. So this is Friday morning, so tomorrow morning, this is around 11 a.m., 12 p.m. So you'll see some rain mixing in. If those temperatures drop into the below the freezing point, right around the freezing point along the Red River, you guys could see some mixed precipitation throughout the day. But then as we get into the overnight hours, so this is 6 p.m. Central Time tomorrow evening, that is where that mix starts north and west of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metro, and then a lot of that will actually avoid you guys up until Saturday around 1 to 3 a.m. And then you can see, as I was talking about earlier, right around Oklahoma City is where that switches from mixed precipitation, freezing rain, over to snow. It looks like we have the potential for some heavy mix, especially west of Fort Smith, Arkansas. So that is, once again, right along that line where it is between freezing rain and snow. And then the heaviest snow accumulation that I'm looking at with this event will be in northern Arkansas, portions of southwestern Missouri, and potentially southeastern Missouri. I haven't taken too deep of a dive on snow totals in the past day or so, so that is a rough estimate. I will look more into those probably after the stream to provide another update for you all tomorrow. Speaking of tomorrow, if necessary, we will go live tomorrow evening, but once again, most of this event is supposed to start to take place much later. This is early Saturday, and then you can see once we get to around 10 a.m. Saturday, that moves east, and then that band kind of dissipates a bit, and we'll see more continue east, and then that's not the last round. You guys over here in North Texas and the southern two-thirds of Oklahoma are in for potentially another round that could bring more snow rather than mix. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of this. And where should we go next? Give me just a second to check in on chat. It's been a minute since I looked. Okay, no new messages yet, so good thing I didn't miss anything. Once again, this is just a brief update in place of a forecast video. I would like to give a shout out to Redbird for the overlay. We've got Pete saying, what's up, Pete? So this is the overlay. I didn't have it fully on just because we don't really need the alerts in the top right now. Did I not see your questions? Oh, I didn't have the chat fully loaded. I saw Airborne's and then it skipped over. Let me go back to that. Sorry about that. Okay, Pete is asking, let me just hide this for now. Pete is asking, you are in Cyberville, Tennessee for the next few weeks and praying we get anything other than ice from this. What's my take on that? So first of all, let me look up where that is. Cyberville, Tennessee. Okay, so that is in eastern Tennessee, about like central eastern Tennessee. So you guys are in that kind of iffy zone where I'm talking about. You're just west of western North Carolina, which is where I was highlighting for potentially very damaging ice accumulations. If we look at that area, we'll zoom in on that on the National Weather Service website, Winter Storm Watch. Let me find the right thing for current hazards. Every NWS office has this a little bit different. Okay, weather story. So this is portions of South Carolina, Georgia, and western North Carolina. You can see Asheville, North Carolina, potentially could see up to 3/4 of an inch of ice. And you're not too far west of that. So I think that you are in for probably 0.3 to potentially 0.7 inches of ice. So about half an inch is my estimate for you. So impacts for that would be those roads icing over. Obviously, you could lose power. So I would not recommend travel. You're there for the next few weeks. So I'm not eyeing too many big setups going after that area within the next 2 weeks. So you should be able to get back home okay. But definitely be cautious because these next 3 to 4 days are going to be rough for travel, to say the least. Electric heat? Darned. Make sure you have blankets and other ways to stay warm and enjoy your time in the cabin. You'll have to let me know if you get snow or what happens. But with that being said, unless anybody has any final questions, we probably will end off the stream here. Unfortunately, I do have to head off for the night soon. Once again, this is in place of a forecast video rather than making a video, just because I get to interact with you guys, ask questions. I don't have to worry about editing through it. So it's a lot easier for everyone. But what I was saying earlier about Redbird's overlay, he made an overlay and allowed me to use it. So if I show this here, you can see it's got our alerts up there. It can make noises if I set it to do that. And then it will give details down here. So shout out to him for making that and giving me access. Full screen that. But I think with that being said, Pete said snow would be fine as long as there's power. If you get snow, you shouldn't get as much ice if those temps do flip over to the freezing point. But if you do get ice and that accumulates on the power lines, that will probably lead to some more widespread power outages. Yes, W Redbird. But with that being said, I think that is going to be the end of this live stream. It looks like nobody has any more questions. So I will see you all in the next one. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Stay safe out there. If you have any questions, be sure to comment on my latest community tab post. And I will see you all in the next one. Peace.